crypto warriors, changing our world day by day. The way of the crypto warriors, can't rely on the bankers, no way.
Good morning, Bix Weir, roadrunner.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of chaga coffee. I want to point everybody to the new series I'm running. It's called The Root of Flash, and it's going to just be a short 1 to 2 minute discussion of conclusions on something I've analyzed. I'm going to try to do it almost daily, so if you want to get notification of these, please like and subscribe to this video, and you will get notified every time a new Root of Flash comes up. I'm going to do it on all types of different topics. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, but it is going to be in addition to my normal news, which I do almost daily, but this will be just like short snippets. So a lot of people say, I can't sit through 20 minutes or a half an hour worth of news. I get it. Yeah, we're all busy. Everybody loves Twitter these days, or Instagram and all that stuff. Instant gratification. I used to write 20-page articles back when I was just blogging. So I guess things are getting shorter and shorter. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. But I always like explaining how I got to these conclusions, because some of it is far-fetched, and I'll get to that in a second. Speaking of far-fetched, the price of silver is around $25. If that's not far-fetched in the world we live today, I don't know what is. Do we have regulators? Are they paid? I hear the salary of the CFTC is over $200 million. For what? For what? What do they do? If they don't know, you have every single commodity blowing out all-time highs. I hear nickel and zinc, and I think zinc already ran. Nickel's the next one, and then they'll hit copper. The very last thing that will ever run is silver. Everything's blowing out all-time highs, and silver is at one half of its 1980 all-time high. And if you give me that line, oh, well, that was just the Hunt brothers manipulating the price of silver, I'd say that is ridiculous. The Hunt brothers only bought 100 million ounces. 500 million ounces are traded every day on this criminal COMEX. JP Morgan took 1.2 billion ounces. And those were sold in the last year by Bank of America. Why isn't anybody at the CFTC doing anything? I'll tell you why. Because the new people they just hired, one was from JP Morgan Chase, and the other is from Citibank. Yes, I am not lying to you. That's the insanity of our regulators. We all need to start discussing with them their position, what they're supposed to do, because I know they have no idea what to do other than to check in with their bosses back at JP Morgan and Citibank, who are the two largest derivative players besides the completely brain-dead Bank of America, who's never even participated in the silver market except for 18 months ago, and now they have the largest silver short position in the history of the world. Why did they do that? Because they're too big to fail bank, and the deciders of bailouts are people like the commissioners of the CFTC. So Citibank and JP Morgan probably have the longs of that trade. They leased the silver to Bank of America. And oh, by the way, they just put 2 of their operatives in the CFTC, the regulator of silver. Freaking ridiculous. You can't make this up, but this is why we do this. The silver market is completely 100% rigged every day in every trade. There is no free market in silver. If there was a free market, it would be $25,000, $30,000 per ounce today. Gold would probably be $10,000 to $20,000 per ounce today. If we had a free market, we do not have a free market. I'm going to talk about gold in a little bit, talking about conspiracies, but $25 silver, I need to stop bitching about it and start saying, oh my God, what a gift. Thank you, JP Morgan, for being so criminal. Thank you, Citibank, for being so criminal. Thank you, Bank of America, for being so criminal. Thank you, CFTC. Rustin Benham, you got your dream team of commissioners who will do whatever you tell them to do for the banking people who control you and own you. Congratulations. Job well done. Let's spend another $200 million on the CFTC this year. I'm so happy about paying my taxes so that people like you can rig the markets. Makes me second guess, should we even pay taxes? The insanity of our government, spending our money, we're promoting the cause. If anything, at least delay your taxes until, October. You can legally do that. You'll have to pay a penalty if you don't pay up. Criminals. Anyway, you know what I feel about silver and inflation, by the way. Producer prices soar at record pace. Pipeline suggests peak inflation is far off. Of course it's far off. You think the Fed's going to raise rates to 20% like the last time this happened? Paul Volcker did that and got inflation under control. It was bullshit. All they did was rig the gold and silver markets with computer programs and start the intense rigging programs in the 1980s. Alan Greenspan, thank you for those rigging programs. Thank you for the electronic financial system. No, a CBDC is no different than what they have right now. No different at all. They have a ledger that they control. The banks have a ledger that they control of every transaction. A CBDC will be no different. If they want to make it different, they would make it an immutable ledger, which you can't change. They would make it visible for the entire world to see. They would have an open source software. They would limit the amount of CBDC money they can print. They're going to do none of that. Zero of that. Nothing of that. So that is exactly what they have right now. They have a ledger of everybody's transactions who goes through the banks. Yeah, they don't have a ledger of cash, although they can track it by serial number. If they really wanted to, they could. It's insane. The whole world's insane. And it's getting worse. Oh, by the way, my theory on China going to cut off the supply chain to the United States of America after Russia did what they did is coming true. COVID-19 outbreak in China is exacerbating the thin-stretch global supply chains. China is going to cut off the United States. They might not do it like Russia did it through, literally the United States cut their own feet off by putting sanctions against Russia when we need all that fertilizer. We need all that. Europe needs all the gas they can get. And does anybody know about shipping LNG, liquefied natural gas? Probably the most dangerous thing you could ever do. They're just floating nuclear bombs. One missile hits an LNG tanker, good night, whatever city they're parked in. The saddest, truthfully, to me, is they have an unloading facility in Boston. That's just insane. One missile hits that, or from a submarine or whatever, or a suitcase bomb or whatever happens. One of those things punctures, it's good night. Good night, the city of Boston. That's how much potential energy is in LNG carriers. As a matter of fact, the Coast Guard has a modus operandi when it comes to LNG tankers. And their operating orders is if a ship is punctured and is leaking, what they're supposed to do is get 50 miles away. 50 miles away from the ship. That's the Coast Guard. That's what they're supposed to do. Oh shit, look. For some reason, a LNG tanker is leaking. Let's get 50 miles away. That's how dangerous these things are. I've seen the old videos. There's old military videos when they were testing out LNG, liquefied natural gas, and what happens when it gets released into the atmosphere. And it takes the little tiniest of spark and boom. Look up liquefied natural gas explosions. You'll be blown away at how powerful these things are. They've had facilities where it took out 10 city blocks. And these are concentrated in these gigantic tankers. And that's how they're going to try to get natural gas over to Europe. Putin must just be laughing. But hey, whatever. So yes, China's going to cut us off. Inflation is uncontrollable. Even a Paul Volcker raise of 20% or 20% interest rates would not fix this. So the housing market is going to implode at 2%. At 1, it's starting to implode already. But you raise interest rates 50 basis points, good night, it's over. 100 basis points, it's over. They need another crisis, and that crisis is going to be a banking collapse. Get your hands on physical silver as soon as you can. They have set up Bank of America to go down as the bank is going to take all the derivatives. I want to see what their earnings are because they're going to lie, cheat, and steal on that too. Anyway, cryptocurrencies, same thing. It's rigged. Oh boy, big whoop. It's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged. You knew it was going to be rigged when all the banks started coming into it and say, oh yeah, we can let's make an ETF with cryptocurrency. The whole thing is rigged. And it's sad, but it's true. But at the end of the day, it won't always be rigged. When the banks go down, all the exchanges, all the cryptos will go to zero and the exchanges will shut down. And then we can start fresh. We won't know the price of silver. We don't know the price of gold. We won't know the price of any cryptocurrencies when the banks fail. Because they're all priced in US dollars. If there's no banks, there's no US dollars. And that's always been the plan. I'm going to show you some stuff. Oh, by the way, this article, majority of financial advisors want to increase their Bitcoin exposure. In a survey featuring 500 financial advisors, 72% want to invest more heavily in the crypto ecosystem. Duh. They're standalone assets. They don't need a bank. Anyway, we'll see. All right. I want to talk real fast about why all this is happening. Why can't we just end the old banking system and start something new? This has been going on since the early 1900s. I started my research into this with this article, Tell of Vast Riches in the Grand Canyon of the New York Times. They found billions of ounces of gold in the sand of the Grand Canyon, placer gold, which is like the little fine gold ounces. And they started to mine it. They built a steamship within the Grand Canyon to move coal for their hydraulic systems to hydraulically mine this stuff. They were going to introduce billions of ounces of gold into the U.S. monetary system, which at the time only had 120, 130 million ounces of gold in the entire system. In the entire world, there was only about 250 million. And they're talking about billions and billions and billions of ounces. This came from the New York Times. It started my investigation into this. Some of the great quotes are F.D. Watson, who's been conducting operations for the Chicago concern, has come out of Lee's Ferry to report his principals and make further arrangements to carry on the work. He declares that when the whole field has been developed, this is one field of many they found. When the whole field has been developed, the supply of gold in the world will have increased by billions. With a B, billions. I know it will be difficult to comprehend that I have a correct conception of the wealth that is buried in the banks of the Colorado Canyon, he says, but I can demonstrate every statement I make to be absolutely true, and that my chief shortcoming is an inability to comprehend the vastness of the riches that lie along the great stream. At Lee's Ferry, which I have been to, I have seen the sunken steamship. This is all real shit. At Lee's Ferry are mountainous deposits of marl silts that contain the wealth. Surmounting these is a sort of capstone formation that contains equal values. These harder formations, however, are a little more difficult for treatment. Underneath this stony cap is the softer silt that practically melts like sugar under a hydraulic treatment. Experimentation and tests repeated and rechecked 1,000 times over have demonstrated conclusively that the soft silt contains 50 cents per yard in gold with a little silver, and strange as it may seem, considerable quicksilver. Exposed to sight are billions of yards of this silt containing more billions of dollars worth of wealth of precious metals than the human mind can possibly grasp in computation. It sounded too good to be true, so I did massive amounts of research into this. And I found massive amounts of evidence that it is absolutely true. Why do you think Woodrow Wilson, who hated banks, signed the Federal Reserve Act in 1913? because he was proven that this is actually real. What would have happened if billions of ounces of gold were introduced to a system that was on a gold standard, don't forget, because the banks had all the gold, that only had 120, 150 million ounces in the entire United States at central banks and in the possession of the people. This is all part of a much larger game to keep you in the dark, to keep your eyes closed. That's why Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act. That's why they met in Jekyll Island. All the Jekyll Island, the big thing that G. Edward Griffiths missed is why they met. His take was, they're trying to get control. They were scared shitless because all their wealth would have been devalued by 100x. If there was billions and billions and billions of ounces of gold, it would have devalued the entire monetary system. The globe would have wreaked havoc on everything. So Woodrow Wilson was convinced to create the Federal Reserve System. And that's where we went. That's where we are. Cut quick to The Economist magazine, 2000. This is part of my research. 2000, in 1988, which had this as the cover. Get ready for a world currency. What I found really interesting is this symbol, the zero with the slash through it. I've done all kinds of research. I'm still researching it. It's very difficult to find information on that. You can find petroglyphs all throughout the Southwest with the zero with the slash through it. And oh, by the way, how about these cryptographic bars? One of the top 10 mysteries in cryptography are these bars that were found. And look what's in them. There's that zero with the slash through it. But this one, these are gold bars. And it talks about a $300 million loan. Here, let me read you what it is. International Association for Cryptographic Research has a website describing a set of mysterious gold bars held by, quote, a museum in the U.S. These bars have gone missing, by the way, now. These bars appear to contain text in English and Chinese, as well as some cryptogram-like text along with pictures. They claim that a national city bank, later Citibank's Shanghai branch, on 3rd of March, 1933, when the gold was confiscated, General Wang Jiali bought 300 million shares of NCB for just over $300 million. One of the gold bars claimed to be some kind of license for this transaction. And the general, and they name all the generals, and these are all real people. And it shows their identities. These are all real. However, there are a number of inconsistencies. And this is what I dug into. The technical details of the airplane depicted on one gold bar seems to be inconsistent with the claimed 1933 dating. The loan was done in 1933. The bars were actually redeemed in 1956. This was a gold loan. The Chinese loaned the United States massive amounts of gold. And as collateral, we gave them the gold in the Grand Canyon to repay them. This is absolutely true because in 1956, the exact part of the Grand Canyon that had a hell of a lot of gold, which is a different part, they had a plane crash. The largest plane crash in history. These planes left from the same airport in Long Beach, going to Chicago and St. Louis, completely different directions, just happened to crash right above the exact site where Kincaid's Cave is, which is a cave in the Grand Canyon where they found Egyptian mummies. And, well, we did a remote viewing. It's gold in there. There was gold in these caves as well. So, yes, it all makes sense. And the most ridiculous thing, it was a clear day. These two planes that take off one after the other from Long Beach, going in different directions, crash over the exact same spot of the Grand Canyon is the dumbest thing you ever heard. But not only that, all the bodies had to be buried in the same grave because nobody could have their bodies, have the bodies of the people. It was insane. I mean, the whole thing reeked of false flag. And it was. It's exactly what it was because they had to shut down the Grand Canyon for 2 weeks and take heavy lift helicopters to bring the, quote, plane parts out. No, they were removing the gold to pay China back. As a matter of fact, it shows it on these bars. Has the plane, here's the circles with, that's got about half the gold in there, right? Maybe half has already been paid back, but let's go back. What do the other bars say? Right here is the classic. All the circles with the slashes are now empty, and look, there's the Grand Canyon and a crashing plane right above it. 2 planes crashing. These were not made in 1933 when the deals were done. These were made afterwards. This is how the payback happened. Anyway, I go down this path so many. The best part is, they brought plane pieces and parts into the Grand Canyon to scatter around, take pictures and stuff like that. People are still finding plane parts in the Grand Canyon at that spot. It's right near the confluence of the Colorado River and the Little Colorado River, right near the sacred Hopi area where it's all cut off. You can't go there anymore. But when people could go there, they were finding plane parts. And hey, this is from that famous plane crash. The best is this gigantic engine that they had there, just sitting there. It was too big to lift out, supposedly. It wasn't from either of the planes. So they picked up a used plane part that wasn't from either of the planes and stuck it in the Grand Canyon to show people, oh, look, a plane crashed here. They weren't as good at false flags back then. Not that they're good now, truthfully. Anyway, more proof. Inside the Grand Canyon, all kinds of, quote, Egyptian. They're not Egyptian. We know it's not from Egypt. I mean, the Egyptians can't build those pyramids today. They didn't build them 15,000 years ago. But there are pyramids within the Grand Canyon. A lot of them are ancient. A lot of them were crushed by a cataclysm. And you can still kind of see them. As a matter of fact, in the Grand Canyon, all the mountains are named after, they look like pyramids and ancient type pyramid structures. And oh, by the way, they're named after Egyptian gods. And on the back of the U.S. $100 bill, the only bill that has not been changed, is what they call the Great Seal. It's not really the Great Seal. The Great Seal is the Great Seal. This was supposed to be, so they said later on, that, there's a back to the Great Seal. Well, the original Great Seal did not have a back. This is the Great Seal of the United States. It didn't have a back, but they say that this was the back. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that it's on the $1 bill, and here's a pyramid. The explanations of why there's a pyramid on the back of the $1 bill are all ridiculous. Oh, it's sound stability, whatever. But this pyramid is not an Egyptian pyramid. Clearly, it's got the bushes and shrubs. There's no bushes and shrubs in the Egyptian desert around the pyramids. And then you got the all-seeing eye, or the whatever you want. It's Freemason, or I don't know what it is. Truthfully, my take, this has to do with the Grand Canyon. This pyramid on the back of the one has to do with the Grand Canyon. And hey, believe it or not, yes, the United States of America does print secret messages on their bills. As a matter of fact, here's a good one. Hidden meanings in the new $100 bill. If you have seen the $100 bill, the left side is just like the old one. It's got everything the old one had. The right side's all about gold. Gold writing, gold fountain pen, gold 100. On the back is another gold 100. And then this part on what part of so they wrote the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence in gold on the $100 bill, but what part did they really focus on? What part of the Declaration of Independence did they focus on? Right here. We the people to alter and abolish. It's right here. Let me read it to you. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers from such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Is there ever been a time that we need this? We have to overthrow our government to get back to a sane United States of America, so they put it right there on the $100 bill. Subliminal advertising. Call it what you want. Go to roadtoroota.com. You can get all this information. Go to the archives. Go to blog, and then educational resources. It'll have the gold in the Grand Canyon stuff, the gold at Chocolate Mountain, 9/11 silver and gold, COMEX silver contracts, all the Road to Roota documents, Bitcoin, you name it, is all in the, you hit blog and then educational resources. And if you want to subscribe to the Road to Roota, click subscribe today. You get everything. There's mountains of evidence for everything that's going on right now. in the Roto-Rooter documents. There are good guys behind the scenes. We are taking back our country. Our current government is completely fake. I have an interview with X22 reporter Dave that's coming out very soon. I will send you that. Go to roadtorooter.com. Sign up for the public road updates there on the left. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. This is Bix Weir. I'll talk to you guys later.
Pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail.